Yeah, hi all. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Market with Ankit Jain. So this is me, Ankit Jain. So I'm a Salesforce technical architect and an MNC. I'm 18x certified. I'm active in Salesforce events. So this is my LinkedIn URL. Feel free to connect with me. So I keep the information about the different mock interviews or other sessions active on the LinkedIn, so you can see that in my post, or you can also join the WhatsApp group. So that's about me. So let's go to the audience that we have now. Yeah. So yeah. Hi Uma. So uh, can we start with your brief introduction, please?
This is Umasai Vishwarupareddy. I am a Salesforce developer working with Accenture with 2 years of experience. I'm a 4X certified in Salesforce Admin, PT1, Advanced Admin and Service Cloud. I have worked upon Financial Service Cloud, and Sales Cloud. So this is regarding a brief introduction. And if you let me allow to explain about my project in detail, I will explain.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm currently working with one of the top clients of a banking in US. So it is a banking, so where it uses Salesforce as with the financial service cloud. Like whereas by using the Salesforce, while implementing the Salesforce as a financial service cloud in this bank, it has various use cases, and it was easier them to track down their customers' requests and all regarding the loans and mortgages. And by providing the service agents, the service console of the Omni Studio, we have configured Omni Studio in that. And on top of that, the release managers and sorry, the bank managers and all, they are coming under the wealth management sector, where they will be able to see how much of loans are being tracked down, what are the personal accounts of a particular customer, and the overview of them is they are by implementing this financial service cloud, they got easier way to track down their customer details, how much of amount and how much of opportunities they are having. And yeah, so as worked as a developer and admin in this project, and we have configured some LWC, and I worked upon LWC and some part of integrations, where we basically use a MuleSoft as a API layer connectivity between the orgs. And yeah, this is regarding my project info. Ankit.
Although quite better, but a little enhancement that I would want is like you talked everything about the technical stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, but what I would want is like I'm not able to visualize it. Like you mentioned about bank managers, I get that. You talked about end customers, that also I'm fine.
Okay.
Uh, but talk about the user journey.
Okay.
Like like how does it start?
Okay.
Yeah, can you continue on that?
Yeah. So, for example, I am an end customer while I'm using the application. So, while I want to inquiry about the loans or else some mortgage or a home loan or a education loan or else, so I go to the page where they will be providing the details, web to case form, where we will be providing the username, name of the customer, and the inquiry. I mean, what he wants to inquire. So by capturing those, the service agent gets those details, and he will be assigning a case with that user details, and the service agents may be bank representatives. So these bank representatives will go through that, and if there is a system integration (CTI) layered upon it, where there is if your user want to get a call back, and the bank representatives would be calling them regarding the type of requirement the customer has acquired, mean, he was inquired, and there will be some knowledge articles regarding that he would be sharing over the customer's email. Uh, and this is regarding the service things. And for a suppose if a customer wants to create an account in that particular bank, so that case would be redirected to the bank managers, for example. So the bank managers would contact the customer, and like they will schedule the meetings and all, and they will be enabling them to create a bank account in those bank. And so while maintaining the bank account, they will do some process like KYC and all. And for those KYCs, we have been integrated with other systems and storing different things. So like that, we have done some multiple step-by-step layered process, and the bank managers can easily accessible the basic. I mean, they can easily enter the details of the customers, such as name, field, uh, I mean, address, and their personal identification number, something else, and they will be redirecting it to the KYC team, where the KYC team handles the uh, like what we can say is like it is like a kind of verification on the customer previous details and all. It's a kind of identity verification. So in that phase, we have created one LWC component where bank managers need to upload the customer files, the related files. Those files may be some customer identification files
Uh,
and customer details.
couple of questions
Uh,
uh, so you told me about like you had implemented Web2 case, right?
yes.
Yeah, so you sure like Web2 case would be able to accommodate those requests? There are some limitations around Web2 case. So can you talk about that? Like around the volume?
Uh, no. Okay. So
But
limited.
yeah, now it's like I would answer that. So with
Okay.
Web2 case, only 5,000 cases per day can 5,000 is the maximum number of cases that could be created with Web2 case.
Okay.
If that number is more, you have to move to REST API.
Okay.
Another part you mentioned about there is like some service managers and their CTI configured. So
Yes.
the assignment is happening through which means I assume omni-channel would be configured, right?
Yes.
So what's the routing type? Like, is it skill-based routing or is it queue-based
Mm,
routing?
yeah, it's basically a queue-based routing. You have configured in the CTI.
Okay. So what's the adapter for that CTI? Like there would be some third party. Is it like cloud-based or is it on-premise?
It is an on-premise we are using in the but that has a on-premise actually, uh, because they want it is a bank situated there, and they want their servers
Okay.
to be secure.
Okay.
So
For security purpose, they would want to
yes,
keep it on this
on
one.
yes.
Another part you mentioned about like there would be various meetings that the bank manager would be scheduling with the customer. Like since the customer wanted to create an account, so bank managers would schedule some calls with that the customer. That's what you mentioned, right?
Yes.
So how those meetings are stored currently in Salesforce? So is it an offline process or is it like
Okay.
some?
Okay. So for that meetings, basically we for example, let us take a Zoom meeting. And, we have created one flow and integrated with Zapier tool. So this Zapier tool will, whenever a manager creates a record, I mean a customer details to schedule a meeting, this Zapier tool pick up. Sorry, so whenever a manager creates I mean a meeting with the customer in a Zoom account. So from that Zoom account, we will be fetching those data to the Salesforce org and storing it in the Salesforce org on an object. And we have integrated Salesforce and Zapier for this purpose, for storing those details, and like such as the name, time, field, time field, URL field, start date, I mean, end date, and
Okay,
we'll be
means
providing.
yeah, in a nutshell, what you're doing is like whenever this needs to have the bank manager has to schedule a call with that customer.
Yeah.
At that time, through the UI, will assume it would be a custom LWC, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so through on that LWC, you do an API call to Zapier, and then from Zapier, it's like the bank would have their own Zoom account, so it's authenticating, and then that meeting is created, and that data is populated into Salesforce, right?
Salesforce. Yes, we will be storing it in objects such as a meeting,
Uh,
schedule a meeting, yeah, pending meetings like that, and
One
all.
minute, which where you are storing it's in a custom object.
Yes, we will be storing it in custom object created in Salesforce.
Just wanted to understand the rationale being on why it's stored on the custom object and why not activities or events. Any specific rationale around that?
So this is being recently implemented, in the recent enhancements. So we are working upon that. So for basic purpose, we have implemented in a custom object right now. So
Uh,
you are suggesting it to keep it in activities and the tasks for it,
yeah, means it's a meeting that is scheduled. Two advantages you would get. First thing, you would be able to see it in your activity timeline, like when that customer call was scheduled.
okay,
Second, like from you would be saving a limit on your custom objects that are being created.
yeah, okay,
So have to think out on those lines. Another part is like you mentioned about the KYC, like KYC, I didn't clearly understand like how that KYC is actually happening. Like the bank manager would means I assume like a bank manager schedules a call with that customer. Now how that KYC, all of those details will be taken in because like here like in India, like I've seen like the video KYC is happening, like they take a photo of yours on the call and ask you for those regular details like Aadhaar and all of those. So those things are managed currently.
yes, okay. So for them, they will have some verification ID differently from other hours, like it is.
So these details KYC is actually happening in the through integration in another system, or how is it actually being tracked in Salesforce? Like suppose I am a customer, okay? I visit to your site. I want to open an account. So I see a page where you have like contact us or something like that. So
Okay.
through Web2Case, that information is transferred to the service managers.
Yes.
Or yeah. So
So after
at that time you're storing, creating a contact, or you're just creating a in like you're using since Web2Case, so there would not be any contact being created, right?
no, we basically there is a scenario where the customer talks with the manager and all, and after that the manager basically takes some details, basic details, and then the manager will forward it to the KYC team, where the KYC team is a separate team. They will be handling. So
Uma, can you detail me on like how this, what things are taken offline and what are actually happening inside of Salesforce around this one? It's not, I'm not able to get that clear visibility, like how this thing is happening. Like explain like from like the customer service manager receives the details from through Web2Case. Then after that, what's happening in system?
okay, after receiving the details, the manager will schedule a call with the customer. Uh,
This
uh,
would happen through via integration.
Via integration, they will schedule a Zoom meeting and it will be storing those details in one object, for example. And right now, we have not only like keep it in assignment or in activity and task, so it would be easier. So, okay. So after that, these so let us take these tasks. The manager will be configuring to the particular user of the, I mean, KYC team, where the KYC team is a separate role in the hierarchy
Okay.
level. So in that separate hierarchy level, there will be some agents who will be taking the KYC. So we will be configuring this task to the KYC agent, and that KYC agent will get the details from this task, and they will be scheduling another call with the particular customer with the same type of integration. And then during that KYC, they will be capturing the photo as mentioned, and they will be asking to upload some documents. And from that, they will be verifying those details in the backend. So,
Okay.
yeah,
So then uh, what? One second. Let me just formulate that. Uh, now, how would the KYC team have access to that record? Because the means the tasks that are created.
yes, a manager would be assigning and manually sharing those records to the particular KYC team.
So is it manually or it
And
everything is would be happening through automation, I guess, right?
yes, I guess I haven't seen, I mean, looked into that. Yeah, we can use the flows after creating a customer.
Because how would that those KYC team would get access to those records? Either you would have configured a sharing rule, like whenever that case of a particular record type is being created, it should get assigned to KYC.
Yes, yes,
That's the only way I look at it. Otherwise, you're because even if you in the OWD, you would not definitely would not make it read right. That's for sure.
yeah, okay.
So in this process, I would say like you have got what I've done. You would have done tremendous integration. So tell me about what are the integration patterns that you had followed, or any configuration or best practices you got to learn in this implementation.
Yeah, so basically, like, uh, uh, while implementing the integration, I learned so much of about it. So there are three type of approaches we basically do the integrations. The first one is the data integration. It comes under like when we want to fetch the data from the one org to another org or one Salesforce org from the another ERP system such as SAP and all. So we basically integrate that data into our org and duplicate it. So here comes the issue, like while duplicating the data, there might be a chances of while integrating the data using data integration approach, there might be a duplicacy issue. So there is another approach where we can just view the data by using the visualization approach. So these are two approaches where I got to learn, and there is another one more approach in integration, like there is a process integration where we use two types of processes which are installed in the two different systems basically. So where SAP ERP system maintains the set of records of the KYC of the customers, and the Salesforce would be handling the meetings and all. So these two will be integrating with each other. While the Salesforce will be making the calls to the Zapier tool and in the for saving the Zoom meeting records, and then for those details related to it regarding the KYC team which has uploaded, they would be storing in the tool another different ERP system where this is the process integration where we basically use two process at the same time will be happening. So these are three approaches where we basically use. Uh,
Actually, the first two data virtualization and copying the data, I follow that. Process
yeah,
integration wise, like what are the two approaches? Like you mentioned about ERP to Salesforce and all of those,
yeah.
but tell me about the different integration patterns around that,
Okay.
like request and reply, fire and
Fire and
for.
forget. Uh, uh,
Yeah,
okay. Uh, so in
you know those or
yes, yes. I remember those just, yeah. So there are request and reply pattern in the integration where the Salesforce will be sending a request to some system like Oracle or SAP and waiting for the reply. This is the first integration pattern. And the second would be the fire and forget integration pattern where uh, like the Salesforce doesn't wait for the system to the reply. Like it invokes the process and after the resource like which would be available after processing the first request, and the second request would be going then. And so this is the fire and forget. And I remember there is one more approach like published and subscribe event. So like your source system will publish any.
UI data update.
Sorry.
That pattern is called UI data update, like which like it updates in the background, means whenever the change is happening, it gets reflected on the UI.
Yeah, this is data virtualization pattern.
No,
That
data
is
virtualization is different.
okay. So
Data
UI.
virtualization is like external object. You're not actually capturing that information inside Salesforce at all.
Okay.
And this UI data update. So what happens is like as soon as that information is available,
Mm-hmm.
like it would reflect on the UI. Like it wouldn't it would not UI it wouldn't wait for that. It's like streaming API, uh, like how you do a
Okay.
payment. So
Yeah.
automatically that page gets refreshed. In the background, the processing would continue, but the UI would get updated as soon as that information is updated in the backend.
Yes. Yes. So that is UI.
The
It,
UI update based on data
oh,
changes.
okay. UI update based on this. Okay.
The next is data means batch data synchronization, where you have like lots of data, so you process it
Mm.
in the nightly batch.
Yes.
And
Mm.
some are like remote calling, like not always you need to hit that other system. Sometimes you allow the other problem to means the other system to hit inside of Salesforce.
Yeah. Yeah.
So learn about those integration patterns thoroughly,
Yeah, sure.
because since your project involves too much integration, so
Okay.
the most questions that would follow would be on integration only. Actually,
Okay.
another question actually I had in my mind, like when you mentioned about that integration with Zapier. So
Yeah.
what's the authentication mechanism you used?
Uh,
Like what is it
okay.
like?
OAuth 2.0, where we required a client secret and client secret, client key and client secret key we have enabled by using those.
Okay, so auth you used. So what was the flow, auth flow that you used?
Auth flow, I couldn't remember it right now.
No, auth flow there would be like different web server flow, or is it like this one JWT token flow? What was it?
I guess it was GWD token, but I will recall it after this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually for your means what a project you have, no, there's too many integration, and definitely what I am thinking in the panel would definitely think the same, like
Yes. Okay.
the all about the auth flows, all about the integration patterns.
Okay.
These things would definitely come into the picture. So be prepared with that.
Yeah, sure.
The next thing I would like to ask is about the best practices of Apex code.
Best practices of Apex code, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So is it on triggers or batch Apex or overall?
Overall.
Overall. Okay. So whenever we are uh, like like we should use bulkification of the code while we are calling something on trigger or else yeah, so we need to bulkify our code and we need to avoid DML and software queries in loops, and so we need to avoid the hard-coded IDs because in our sandboxes we can use the hard-coded we basically we use for the testing purpose of the hard-coded IDs, but while going into the production we should not use the hard-coded queries. We need to make sure that, and while we are writing the test classes we need to make sure at least there is a 75% of test coverage in our test classes, but like we need to make sure like it is around 90 and 90 above, because while we are pushing the code to the higher environments from the lower environments, there might be a chances of those test code, I mean test cases, test code coverage would be decreasing. So we need to make sure basic minimal is 75, but we need to make sure it above 85 or 90 like that. And okay, for triggers, like for triggers, we need to write only one trigger on particular one object, not more than one trigger. And we need to avoid trigger recursion by using Boolean variable, static variable. Uh, and one more thing I can say is like
Use maps and list.
yeah, loops and maps and this. Yes, and
Your trigger should be logicless.
yes. Yeah, that's the one thing. So for trigger should be logicless. We need to have a trigger handler class separately for writing the logic, and a trigger separately for executing the trigger. So right, when we need to perform multiple operations on particular object, we need to write multiple methods in the trigger handler class. So we can call these trigger handler class, I mean triggers, like mentioning the trigger handler class method name in the trigger. And we need to make sure we need to check the order of execution also, where it comes in play. And yes, these are the main things I could remember. And
On these, there I have like you opened the entire new scenario means questions like while what you answered actually.
okay,
First thing you mentioned about like static, you would use you would create different handler class instead of that regular trigger and put that all logic inside that. Why? What's the benefit you will get? Why you should not have all the logic and trigger?
so sometimes the trigger couldn't handle all the logic while executing all the things.
Means I
Means
didn't follow why it won't be able to handle.
uh, okay, haven't explored it that much, but when I
It's
was
simple. It's quite simple. The logic, like you would say, like, why
mm,
didn't it strike to me? So the logic is like, whenever you have like, the only reason we don't write any trigger logic inside trigger directly because you want to increase the reusability. Like, suppose if I write a particular piece of code in the trigger,
yes,
then it's quite possible like that same logic could be reused in multiple places. So
yes,
how would I be able to reuse that method? I won't be
okay,
able to do that. So that's why I put that in the common class where I could make that static
mm,
or and then make that available multiple places. Means I can would be able to call that.
yeah,
That's the only reason like we make don't write any logic inside a trigger. The
okay,
second part you mentioned about like you need would try to avoid the recursion using static variable. Do you know what's the disadvantage with that approach?
no,
After 200, the static variable would get reset. Now you should answer why it's 200. Do you recollect anything?
the maximum number of records in transaction
Yes, it's the batch size.
batch size.
Yeah, and trigger the by default the default batch size is 200.
Okay.
So after 200 records, that the static variable would get reset.
Okay. So what's the another approach for this purpose? Like, can we?
The only way normally what happens is like you use a trigger framework. So in that they handle it via custom settings.
Okay. Via
Because
custom.
because custom settings won't get reset, right?
Yes. Okay. We are calling the custom setting in the trigger.
Yeah, that's how it does internally.
Okay. Okay.
Another quick thing you just mentioned about is list and map you talked about, and then what else you talked about? Okay. Yeah, avoid nested for loops.
Yes, it's regarding to avoid recursion in triggers.
No, for loops. Like if I had to could like never do any query inside the for loop, query or DML. Do you know why?
Um,
Because then in that scenario, if the data, and if suppose you get the records of say 200, like it's the default batch size, and you receive that many records, then it would hit the DML exception or SQL exception,
okay, yeah,
and it won't be efficient as well.
yes,
So you have to do the bulkification on that.
yes.
Now tell me about what's the about the security model of Salesforce. So how does that work out?
Okay, so basically the security model of Salesforce is divided into four types. The first is org level access, and second is object level, record level, and field level security. So these are the four things which we basically implement in security model. And while using first one is the org level access. So in this org level access, we basically monitor the users which we are logging in. Like we will set up the login IP ranges, login hours for the particular user, how much time he should log in from. Is it a 10 hours or 12 hours? After that, the user cannot log in into the Salesforce org, and we'll be using login IP ranges for these particular IP ranges. We are assigning this user on the profile level for this user, he should log in into these IP ranges. Other than that, he cannot log in into another IP range. So that is regarding the org level security, which comes in the role. And so after that, let us take the field level security.
Yeah,
Uh, so for field level security, like we can say that like
it's like keep it simple. No, talk about like the profile. Like at the profile level, we can do that. We also have permission sets in
yeah,
place.
profiles and permission sets.
Yeah,
So, and for um, object level, I mean record level security, we have OWD role hierarchy, sharing rules, manual sharing, and above that there would be territory sharing. Uh, yes, and for object level security, like it is OWD public, private.
another one latest feature you missed actually restriction rules. There is something called as restriction rules that are available. So
Okay,
for
is it
that rules, you won't be able to see that data if those rules are available.
okay? Yeah. So like this, we are basically using the Salesforce with the secure, these easiest way of security layered model in our
Yeah. Um. Now tell me, like you mentioned, like in the project you worked on LWC.
yes.
So where did you actually place that LWC?
Okay. For some LWC components, we have placed in the record page, and for some of them, we have placed in the home page. Like, mm,
Okay.
yeah.
Now tell me, like, what changes did you make to make that available on that record page or on the home page?
Okay. So while uploading, I mean, while creating the component of LWC in the VS Code, there is a XML file which we need to make changes to make it available. So there is a is exposed. tag in XML file where we keep it as a true, set it as true, and there are some elements we need to be added for keeping visibility of the particular pages like home page, record page, and app page. So for record page and app page, we have keep it as is true, and we have saved that XML file and deployed this component into the Salesforce org, and we have in where we have edited the on clicking on the setup page, we'll get the edit page, and on the edit page button, uh, uh, we will get the page layout, page of that particular app page or home. And clicking on the on the left side, then the component will be visible of the busy component where we can place it and as necessary.
Okay. What calling mechanism did you use? Did you use wired adapter or you used imperative calling?
Okay, we have used imperative calling actually.
What's the difference between imperative calling and regular calling?
Uh, as you learn, as soon as the component, the field gets updated in imperative, uh, like on the UI, it would be shown as soon as the value get updated in imperative, whereas in wire, it would take time unless there is a condition which, I guess.
You would have better control when you are using imperative calling because you could do any kind of validations you want to do, or even if you want to do a DML, you're able to do that in your imperative calling because it's wired, you won't be able to do that. Also, like you would have to make that cacheable equal to true for wired adapter.
Yes. Every time, like we refresh it, unless we refresh it, like we don't get it in wire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
So then that, like, why do you use future method?
Future method, basically the first thing would be to avoid DML exception. Yes.
DML exception?
Mixed DML exception.
Okay.
Sorry for that. And yes, to make some callouts, we will be using future methods, I guess. Yeah.
So the reason we do it, one thing is correct, like we wanted we use it to avoid the mixed HTML. Second is like any delay that is needed
mm,
or anything we want to make asynchronous instead of the regular synchronous. So the simplest way is to create a future method.
yes.
I think there's like too many. Actually, I have multiple questions. Actually, I'm just thinking like in regular interview, 40 to 45 minutes, it mostly gets over.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking even from that perspective.
Actually.
Yeah. So in the future method, can I call a future method? Means why can't I pass object inside of future method?
Sorry. Hello.
Why can't I pass object in the future method as a parameter?
Because the future method only takes arrays and primitive data types only, the collection of primitive data types, but we cannot uh, pass as a, object as arguments.
But why is this Salesforce restricted that?
Uh,
The reason being, like, if the object is available, then it might happen like the when the future method, we all know, like future method gets executed when the Salesforce server has sufficient resources. So it's not guaranteed like immediately after how much duration it would get executed. So in the meantime, that object state might have changed. So and due to that, data inconsistency can happen inside Salesforce.
mm,
So to avoid that, Salesforce is not allowed future method, I mean, passing of object to future method.
okay, sure.
Uh, have you written any test classes so far?
Not that much, but I have debugged some test classes like there.
Okay. So tell me like why you write C all data equal to false? When
Yes,
you create a test class, you have to write at the top, right?
yes. In order to in order not to expose the test data, so we use solid is equal to false.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question, like which I was asked multiple times, like what happened, like if we all know, like Salesforce knows that we should not be exposing orgs data, then why that option itself is given?
For performing the unit testing in the,
No. The only reason that is available because first a few reports and dashboard and some connect APIs related to user profile, this SQL data might be needed in. Only for that scenario it's given in. Other than that, there's no use case like why that SQL data should be provided.
uh, Ankit, can you repeat it?
See, what happens is like if you put the CL data equal to false, like then
Okay.
the orgs data is not exposed. But
Yes.
for report some testing, if you want to do related to reports and dashboard, you would need to access the orgs reports and dashboard because you can't create them with test methods.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
That's the actual use case that it solves for CL data.
Okay.
And also for some user profile related APIs, testing that CL data is needed in.
Okay.
The Have you written test.start test and stop test?
Yes. To give a new set of governor limits before the actual testing method starts.
That's for start test. What about stop test?
Uh, so like what you can say is like, yeah, I remember like
If any asynchronous method is there and it forces it to become synchronous.
yeah, yes, yes.
That's the only reason that we have that start test and stop test. The next set of question is around like what other means if suppose I have to what's the what are different field types that we have in Salesforce? Field data
Okay,
types, I would say. Field data types. Yeah.
okay, number, auto number, okay, like field data types, right? Yes, that would be
Mention the complex ones, not the regular primitive types. I want to hear about master detail and other stuff.
okay. Master detail and lookup relationships. There are two relationships also. Yes.
Apart from that, there are also two other
Mm,
external lookup and indirect lookup.
okay. External lookup and indirect lookup. Yes.
Yes.
Self relationship and one more. Forgot. Many to many relationships.
Yes.
Yes.
Many to
Uh,
many relationship is actually to master detail. Well, now tell me like what's the actual junction record? How do you create a junction object?
okay. So for basically, there are if there are two master detail objects. So let us take for example students and teachers. So these are two master detail relationship objects. In that, for connecting students and teachers, we need a class, right? So the class is here acts as a junction object. So this junction object connects the student object and teachers object. So like this, we will be creating the many to many relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, another interview question I recollect related to that. Like,
Okay.
suppose the OWD of one of the object is say private and other one is uh, read. which will be the one it would take?
Okay, is it in junction object one?
Yeah.
Okay, let us take for example, student is private OWD and teachers is public OWD. And now we need
It
in
would,
class.
you should ask me like what's the primary uh master detail. Like if you have master multiple, like for junction object, it's like you would have one as the primary master detail and other is secondary master detail, right?
Right, okay. So
So where the one which has the
primary
primary
MD.
relationship, the first master detail, which is the primary relationship that takes that OWD from there.
Okay. So if it is set as private OWD in the primary master detail, so we
It
cannot
would be
access
private,
those records in
private,
the.
private, yes.
Okay.
I think you are pretty much
So,
for 2 years of
mm,
experience, you are good. Just work on a few things related to integration. Other than that,
yeah.
I think you would be able to crack most of the interviews with whatever current knowledge you have.